Welcome to our midweek special, Bet Racing Nation. We're looking ahead to the Ebor meeting at York. 3 group races and 3 handicaps. And we've got our experts to tell us exactly what they think about Wednesday's racing. And we're going to look at the handicaps first of all. And we are joined on the phone by Billy Blakeman. Good evening, Billy.
Good evening, Peter.
Good to hear from you, Billy. When I was looking for this race, it was a bit of a minefield, and I thought I looked at all of them, and you came up with 2 or 3 that I didn't even study. So let's start, first of all, with Bantam and why you like this one.
Yeah, I think when I looked at the race, I kind of thought, Peter, there'd be a bit of rain around. I thought the going might soften up a little bit. Just reading an update from Anthony Moorehead on the York Racecourse website, and basically they've had a dry day at York. It's been really dry and breezy. The ground's actually quickened up, so it's actually good to firm in places, good generally. And there's no real rain forecast for tomorrow, so it could actually be quite fast tomorrow. I kind of throws a bit of a spanner in my thinking, but I did like Bantam because although you can question his handicap mark, there's no doubt he's improved this year. You know, he's a sprinter on the up, so you know, the handicap mark's only a problem if the horse has really kind of reached his level. I'm not sure he has. He's got a really good record under Ryan Moore. He goes well on releasing the ground. He doesn't need it. He handles the ground fine. He's drawn 5. Now, with the draw at York, you never quite know. It's not that clear cut. It could be high, it could be low. A lot of people think it's down the middle. But I think Bantam, you know, is a classic sort of improving sprinter. And in these big handicaps, I've said on the show before, you know, I like a good top jockey. So Ryan Moore in the saddle doesn't put me off at all.
OK, and in relation to that, the second choice there is See the Sun. Now, we know that horse has got a bit of a dash. He was actually 6 in the Sky Bet dash. The form has been upheld. Outdo, who was placed in that race just ahead, has won the big race at Ripon on Saturday. And you think the drop back from 6 to 5 will definitely suit?
I do. I mean, I backed See the Sun when he won here back in July, and had a nice win on him then. You know, again, looking at jockeys for these races, you've got to look at trainers, and Tim Easterby does incredibly well with sprinters, you know, these sort of sprint handicappers. He's only a 3-year-old, this horse, but he has got a lot of pace. So, you know, although he's dropping down from 6 to 5, I wouldn't see that as a problem at all. And again, he's a horse with more to offer. I think he'll set a blazer trail if he gets if stall 20 is favourable, and it might be, you know, he's drawn really high. If stall 20 is favourable, he's going to make them all go, and I wouldn't be amazed if they don't pick him up, you know.
And you've gone for another one here to watch out for, Magical Macy, who's actually at a low draw. I mean, that horse has got some speed about it as well. But the form going might not suit.
No, indeed. I mean, to be honest, if Magical Macy, if they don't get any rain, I can see him being withdrawn, to be honest. I did like him when I thought it was going to be more of a shower. If it does rain, if they do, you know, if it's a bit soft, then he would have a chance. I mean, he's really interesting in that he's out of form, so you know he's a big price because of that. He's got you know he's got form in these big handicaps, which is quite important. He's edging down the weight. He's not summiting down the weight. He's only edging down sort of gently. But he's had a nice little break. He's got Richard Hughes booked, who I think is 2 from 15 for the yard in the past 5 seasons. He's just the kind of horse, you know, who could pop up. There's another one with a good yard with David Barron. You know, he knows how to train to be a handicapper. So, you know, the ground may not be right for him, but if it comes up soft, just give Magical Macy a chance.
OK, let's just go around some of the others. Robot Boy, a young up-and-coming horse. You think this one might have a chance?
I do. I looked at Robot Boy yesterday and I thought, well, if the ground does kind of soften up, it's not really going to be in his favour. There's no evidence to say that he'd enjoy that. Because the going is looking like it's going to be on the fast side, then Robot Boy has a massive chance. Again, he's one of those horses that he's got scope to improve. You know, he's done really well, and I would certainly be a fan of his if the going is on the firm side. So yeah, definitely.
Does the weight not bother you? Obviously, it's gone up in the handicap.
Not really, no, not really. I mean, I say weight's only a showstopper if you've really kind of reached your peak, and you know, it's past sort of 5 furlongs. Weight isn't the first thing I'm looking at. You know, you've got to have trainers who know what they're doing in these races. You've got to have a decent jockey. The draw, you've got to kind of guess that at York. But, you know, to have a sprinter that you know has improvements in him, that's more important to me than sort of saying, well, technically I don't think he's well handicapped.
OK, before we go over your picks for this particular race, I'm going to give you a couple of mine. You can give your feeling on that. First one is Lacey. I mean, I thought it was very impressive at Ascot. It was an inexperienced jockey that rode it last time. For me, that's got a chance. Quite a big price as well, mark of 101.
Yeah, race is quite interesting. I mean, he's made a fool of me a couple of times this year, and I backed him actually at Ascot on the day before his win over 7 furlongs, and I'm told the jockey forgot his gloves and couldn't really hold on to the horse, and he kind of bolted away over 7 furlongs, and I left him alone the following day, and yes, he did it nicely at Ascot over 5 furlongs. He's a nice type. It's just, for me, a bit difficult to foresee him defying the mark of 101. You know, he's not the youngest horse. He's not really got any scope to improve. Fair play to Brian Ellison, who does well in these races. But I think a mark of 101 is just too high for him.
And the other one I quite like the look of is Mass Rally, which is a top weight. We haven't seen that horse for some while. SK Love obviously has flanked the form. It's won that race when it beat Toolmore. How do you think the top weight will handle conditions tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, Mass Rally is kind of a bit of a legend, isn't he, up north? I mean, there was, go back a few years, and he's the kind of horse that never quite got his head in front, and people sort of cast aspersions over his attitude. But then he really kind of found his form, and he's an admirable type. And it's a huge last off top weight, but he has got the class. And, you know, what's important to him is the fast pace. He's certain to get that. You know, he's bound to run well. Whether he's quite good enough to defy top weight, I'd be a little unsure. But, you know, deeply make the frame.
And we've mentioned quite a few. Is there any others that you'd like to mention?
You've got to mention Caspian Prince. I mean, he's a real speed merchant, which counts for plenty, you know. And he's drawn high as well, I think. And if he can, you know, he's bound to run well for a long way. He's £7 higher than when he won the Epsom Dash, which might be a showstopper. But, you know, he's going to be out there in the front. He's not going to find any trouble. He's going to have every chance. You wouldn't rule out a big run from him. And, you know, line of reason. He's never been better. Paul Midgey's another trainer that I really like in these big handicaps. You know, does very well with a sprinter. He's drawn 1. Fast ground again won't be any hindrance to him. If the low numbers are favoured, you have to give line of reason a chance. And, probably mentioned enough there.
OK. Well, before we move on to the 2 mile handicap, I'm going to give you my choices. My choices are Racy and Mass Rally. I'll be going for the forecast with your selections, or we're just going to do... How are you going to play this tomorrow? And obviously tell the viewers and listeners at home exactly how you're going to play this big race tomorrow.
Yeah, I think, Pete, I've done this for a long time, is, you know, I don't be backing one in a race like this. You can back 3 or 4 at big prices and be absolutely fine. If you get the winner, you know, you want a nice payday. So, you know, some people don't like to back more than one in a race. That's kind of nonsense. So what I'd say is back Robot Boy, back See the Sun. If there's any rain around, get on Ash Fan Sam and Magical Macy. Ash Fan Sam, you know, I think will run anyway, and I think he'll run a big race. Magical Macy, I don't think if it's on the firm side, I don't think they'll run him, to be honest. See the Sun won't really mind what the ground is, and Robot Boy is worth a punt. So, you know, do 2 or 3.
OK. All right, well, we've got a few more minutes to discuss the 420, which is the handicap over 2 miles. We know you as the handicap king, but let's start with the top weight statutory. It heads the weights, needs 3 miles really, but I just wanted your thoughts on this one. Yeah,
it's kind of going from one extreme to the other. To be honest, I probably prefer the 5 furlong race to the 2 mile race, but statutory I thought was really quite interesting. I mean, as a 3-year-old last season, he was a typical sort of Mark Johnston, tough handicapper, you know, he did really well. He struggled a bit this year. He went to Maidan with the Dolphin, and he struggled in Maidan. And he struggled a bit this season. The problem is he can take a real tug. You know, you don't want a horse that's pulling for his head over 2 miles. He can do that, which is a bit of a worry. If Andrea Advini can get him settled, though, he has got a bit of class. He's edging down the weights. I think he ran quite well last time here. He was only 6 of 8 in the end, but he raced probably for a long way. He is the class all for the race, and he kind of tapped me a little bit at 14 to 1. I thought I wasn't bad value at all. OK. Another horse that might be suited by the firm conditions is Bantam. Any thoughts on Bantam, or is not on your radar? Yeah, Bantam, I thought, again, was interesting because it's obviously not exposed. She's only had a couple of runs this year. I kind of felt that, you know, she ran after 11 days ago. I think this is quite quick. It probably comes quick enough for her. She's got Ryan Moore on board. She's got scope to whether the 2 miles is quite what she wants, I wouldn't be certain. She's got a fair chance, but I thought 8 to 1, she's probably short enough in the market, so I'd probably be kind of on the fence with her, really.
Big Thunder, been unlucky last time. Thoughts on Big Thunder?
Well, the Big Thunder, yeah, I had a little on Big Thunder at Goodwood and again at Ascot at the Shergoff Cup meeting. Because he's with the Mark Prescott, you kind of feel he's got one of these races in him, and I wouldn't rule him out at all. He's had 11 days since his last run. I think it's quite a hard race, so I prefer him to be a little bit fresher. But then the Mark horses were out of form early in the year, coming back. He's certainly off a mark of 95. He's capable of winning, certainly. So I wouldn't put you off him.
Okay, have we discussed the winner, Billy, or have you got a hidden gem?
You've got to mention, I wanted to mention to Frank Morgan for Mark Johnston, because we touched on Mark Johnston earlier. What's interesting is Mark Johnston is probably one of all our favourite trainers. Fantastic strike rate. York is his very, very worst track of all. It's a tough strike rate for him at York. He's got a 5% win record, which is right at the bottom of the tree. You've got to mention Sir Frank Morgan, because it's kind of typical handicapper for the yard. He's a 4-year-old, and he runs badly sometimes, he runs well sometimes. But 20 to 1, I just thought he might be worth a second look. Just coming on board, huge Joe Fanning fan. No better jockey for me in the weighing room than Joe Fanning. I thought he had a chance. And also, you've got to mention Brian Ellison. He's got about 6 in here, I think, and he's got Totalised, who I know our own Jimmy Doan is a big fan of. He's interesting with the Megan Carberry, but again, in these kind of races, I'm not really big on a £7 claimer, even though Megan is probably one of the best. But the other one I've mentioned is the mare, Lady Casham, with Alan Swinbank. Now, Alan Swinbank is shrewd as they come, and this mare's only had a couple of races this year, and she's won a share. She's won a share of the years. She may be fairly handicapped rather than well handicapped. I wouldn't rule out a big run from her, but if you're asking me to nail my colours, I'd go for Scratches 3. Number 1, top weight.
There's a couple of things that you mentioned there in relation to Totalised. I mean, Megan Carberry, who takes off the 7 there, does bring it back to relatively the handicap mark from before. One horse we haven't mentioned, I don't know whether you feel has a chance, Eagle Rock loves York. Any thoughts on Eagle Rock?
Yeah, Eagle Rock's the real sort of old favourite. He would stay 3 miles, no problem at all. And, he's got form at York, which is important, as has Totalised. And quite often, you see time again that York form does kind of stand up in York races. To me, Eagle Rock, he's probably, he won a 4-winner race 2 starts ago. I always thought he was better at a bit of giving the ground, to be honest. And he probably isn't going to get that tomorrow. I just think his kind of horse is going to run well. I wouldn't put you off him each way, but whether he's quite good enough to win, not sure. OK, well, that's your view. And just for the viewers at home, let's give your selection again for the 420. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Godolphin horse, number 1, Statue 3, about 14 to 1 as I speak. And we've got about 30 seconds left, Billy, for this section. Is there anything that you've picked for tomorrow elsewhere that you quite fancy before we go? I haven't, to be honest. I have a very small share into the Sky who just won at Worcester. A very small bet on him. I'll have a look later on, put something on Twitter. OK, well, fantastic. That's a look at the handicap. I'm surprised we didn't do the nursery handicap in the last, but we pick the 2 as handicaps. Thanks very much, Billy. We'll join you probably tomorrow evening, look at Thursday's card. Thanks very much for joining us. After the break, we're going to look at the group races with Tom.